Hey, Autism Fitness founder Eric Chessen, leading the movement for movement and bringing you another edition of Autism Fitness Tuesday training. And of course, before we begin, please definitely subscribe so that you never miss an episode of Autism Fitness Tuesday training. And I'd love to know what you think. I'd love to know about how these concepts, practices, strategies influence your own fitness and adapted PE programming for the autism and neurodivergent individuals that you serve. I want to know about it. Leave it in the comments below. And if there's ever a topic that you'd like me to cover in a future edition of Tuesday Training, leave that in the comments below also. Quite helpful, so I know where to go. Speaking of where to go, in this edition, I am going to be talking about good exercises, and I'm going to be providing an operational definition of good from the perspective of the PAC profile. Of course, the PAC profile is our standard operating system in autism fitness programming. So looking at it from the perspective of physical, adaptive, and cognitive capabilities for our autism and neurodivergent life skill athletes so that they can get the most out of their programming, so that you can get the most out of your coaching. So first, let's define good exercise. Now, different exercises we can think of as tools. They serve different purposes. They do different things, and the outcome is all going to depend on how the tool is utilized. There's the analogy, there's the metaphor. If the exercise is not being implemented in a way that checks off a couple of important boxes, then we're not going to get the desired outcome because the thing is not doing the thing that the thing is supposed to do. We also want to avoid random exercise selection because, of course, that's going to give us random outcomes in what we're trying to do. And there's a difference, so we want to differentiate between exercise and moving around a lot. So what do I qualify or categorize as moving around a lot? Some of the common fitness, not for lack of a better term, but this is the good term, garbage, of exercises that are just smashed together or just placed together just because, it seems like a cool exercise, or there's a lot of motion around, like running back and forth, or doing a lot of jumping and a lot of explosive or power-based exercise. The first question to ask is why? What are we actually trying to achieve? If we're just trying to fill time for 15 or 25 or 35 minutes, there might be some more education needed on an appropriate and meaningful and effective program. Utilizing those exercises rather than just, I saw this exercise, I thought that was cool, let's do this, or this looks really fast, or this will look great on social media, let's do that. Like, what is the point of this exercise? And truly understanding what the exercise is supposed to do instead of just making it up. So instead of saying, this exercise is great for power and balance and coordination and stability and strength, and it's probably not, because the exercise serves a particular purpose. So first we have to know what the intended outcome of that exercise is, and then we can decide if desirable it has that outcome for our athlete when programmed a certain way. So for example, if we're talking about strengthening the shoulders, particularly the front delts and then the shoulder capsule, is an overhead press good? Yes. Theoretically and in practice, that overhead press, something that we utilize in Autism Fitness Program, is going to be a good exercise. But then we have to get into the physical, adaptive, and cognitive of that. Is a squat going to be a good lower body exercise? Yes, generally speaking. Now we have to get into the specifics, because now we get into the divide between a good exercise choice and the exercise actually being implemented. There have been many occasions where I receive an email or a communication from a parent, and they say, hey, Eric, my son or my daughter is able to do this exercise and this exercise and this exercise. What should they do next? Or can you design a program for them? No, because I haven't seen them do that exercise. I don't know what the program looks like. I haven't seen it for myself. I'm not coaching that athlete, so we can't just go by a text exchange or an email exchange and say, oh, well, it seems like they're able to do these exercises. We need to know that for a fact. My favorite question is, what is actually happening here? What is the athlete doing? To what level of ability can they do that exercise? And then what is our goal? What do we want this exercise to accomplish for this athlete? What do we want this athlete to accomplish with this exercise, both in the short term and in the long term as well? So we have our good exercises, meaning that the exercise is fulfilling the requirements of the outcome that we want, whether it is power, whether it is strength, whether it is strength endurance, etc. Now we get into dividing it down into the PAC profile. So physically, at what point can this athlete independently, with motor control and full range of motion, complete this squat or press or band row or whatever the exercise is? How much range of motion do they need in order for this exercise to be performed safely and effectively? That's a big deal. And then where are they right now? Do we need to augment or modify that exercise so that the athlete is able to do it safely and comfortably to the best of their current ability right now? And of course, there are a couple ways. You see how we keep dividing off here. There are a couple different ways to modify an exercise as well. Hint, those are all things that you get in the Autism Fitness certification curriculum. From an adaptive perspective, how motivated is the athlete to perform this particular exercise? Now, this doesn't necessarily make an exercise good or bad, but it does have some impact on where we're going to implement the exercise in the program. Are we going to put it first? Are we going to put it in the middle? Are we going to put it last? Where might that athlete want to put that exercise in their program? You might be surprised that sometimes the athlete has a less preferred exercise and they either want to put it first or earlier in their program to get it done with, or we want to wait until the end of this session, even though the athlete might be a little bit more fatigued, both physically and from a self-regulatory perspective also, but they want to do it last because they just want to do other stuff first, and by doing it last, then they get to be finished with that exercise. So that's a consideration as well. Adaptive functioning, or the athlete's level of willingness to participate with that particular exercise, is often going to be the deciding factor in how many sets and repetitions they will do of a particular exercise. Let's take the squat, for example. If you have an athlete who is highly unmotivated to perform the squat right now, it may just be one set of 5 repetitions at the end of a session. In that case, it's not necessarily going to be the exercise with the highest training effect or training value right now, but steadily as we build over time, the athlete's willingness to perform 6, 7, 10 repetitions, then we're getting into territory where the exercise is going to have a beneficial physiological effect that we can actually see and measure. Finally, from the cognitive perspective, the more an athlete understands the expectation to perform an exercise, and this could be both muscle memory and motor planning, and understanding, having a visual representation of what that exercise should be performed like, is going to give the athlete a lot more capability and control over the performance of that exercise. If they are rushing through that hurdle step or those push throws or that overhead press, there is going to be less gained physiologically, and this could be either A, because the athlete doesn't yet have the physical capability to perform this exercise, or from a cognitive standpoint, the athlete is rushing through because they have not yet developed the ability to discriminate or differentiate between performing the movement fast and performing the movement slow and controlled. And there's also some crossover effect there as well. We may not always know whether the athlete is physically capable of performing that exercise independently, or whether it's more of a neuromuscular issue that we just continue to focus in on so we can coach appropriately and have a much better outcome for our athlete. So in terms of good or otherwise, let's even call them, poor exercise choices, do they exist? Absolutely. Do they hold true for the autism and neurodivergent population? Absolutely. So there are a couple different phases of being successful. It's number one, understanding exercise science and programming. Number two, understanding your autism and neurodivergent athletes and meeting them where they are at right now. And three, understanding things from the perspective of the physical, the adaptive, and the cognitive so that you can cover all of those aspects in your programming, whether you're talking about one exercise or you're talking about multiple exercises, and how to put them together, how to coach them, and where they should be for your athlete in terms of the program itself and the prioritization as well. So that is a little bit on good exercises and then how good exercises affect good programming and coaching. I'd love to know what you think. Leave those in the comments below. If you're ready to become an Autism Fitness Certified Pro, head on over to autismfitness.com. You can learn all about the Pro certification, the Expert certification, and of course the Site certification program for schools and organizations. And definitely leave a comment down below so I know what you're thinking and what you want to know more about from Autism Fitness. I'm Autism Fitness founder Eric Chessen, leading the movement for movement. Thank you very much for watching.